If I were to ask you about your thoughts on dogfighting as an acceptable recreation activity, most, if not all of you, would tell me how you are against dogfighting. We are all familiar with the 2007 Michael Vick case where the exposure of his illegal dogfighting ring called Bad News Kennels reached the attention of the public. According to the Animal Legal Defense Fund website, the federal indictment report for animal cruelty against Vick revealed that he was responsible for the actions of hanging, electrocuting, shooting, drowning, and slamming the head of at least one dog on the ground for underperforming. The Animal Legal Defense Fund website also shares that there were about 54 dogs that were killed under his care. Performance-enhancing drugs, a rape stand, slap mills, parting sticks, a blood-stained fighting area, and of course paperwork documenting animal fights. This information, although disgusting, reached national attention and raised awareness for people to take a stand against the cruelty associated with dogfighting. But what about another form of animal cruelty that is not so hidden and private? How familiar are you with the treatment of greyhounds that are bred and trained for racing wagers? Have you ever considered what the training process for greyhounds is, or what happens to them once they are injured and seem unfit to perform? As a public and legal recreational activity, you would think that wagering on greyhound races is all about dogs competing with one another to win a prize. Unfortunately, there's a dark side to greyhound races that should have been brought to the public's attention. Hello class, my name is Joseph Parker Youngblood, and I am against greyhound racing in my home state of Florida. On November 6th, Florida residents will be asked to vote for Amendment 13 to the Florida Constitution on whether or not wagering on dog races, including greyhound races, should be prohibited throughout the state. As a Florida resident and owner of two amazing dogs, I believe that it is my duty to take part in putting an end to the inhumane treatment of greyhounds. Today I'm going to share the reason why I believe that wagering on greyhound racing should be prohibited in the state of Florida. First, I will reveal the problems associated with inhumane treatment of greyhounds used in the racing wager industry, including the abuse and exploitation of the animals. Next, I will explain the cause of greyhound mistreatment through a financial perspective of trainers and owners going to extreme measures to produce dogs that win it and bring in the highest profit. Finally, I will share my views on how prohibiting wagers on greyhound racing can put an end to the mistreatment and exploitation of greyhounds. The major problems that are seen in the industry of greyhound racing include inhumane treatment by drugging, isolating, and the inability to rehome greyhounds after retirement. An article written in the Miami Herald on September 12, 2018 by Tony Glover, a Tallahassee lawyer and former director of Division of Fair and Mutual Wagering that regulates greyhound racing in Florida, reveals that 2016 and 2017 fiscal year showed an increase of 350% in random drug testing of competing greyhounds. Of the dogs that Glover claims was found in the bloodstream of the drugs that were found in the bloodstream of competing dogs: oxycodone, oxymorphine, caffeine, lidocaine, novocaine, DMSO, and other metabolics. One such case of cocaine use in greyhounds was written about in the Tampa Bay Times by Tony Marrero in 2017. Drugging greyhounds to perform a certain way usually ends up with the dog failing to physical abuse. In addition to drugging, some greyhounds intended for racing are often kept in small cages and endure physical abuse and death at the hands of their trainers. When deputies entered Ebro Greyhound Park, which is right down the street from where I live, they found all 37 dogs in small cages. 32 were dead, 5 were alive, and all but one still living had duct tape wrapped tightly around their necks. The cause of death was reportedly starvation and dehydration in all 32 greyhounds. The park's assistant general manager said that the trainer, Williams, came to the park to let 2 dogs out every day, and Williams told everyone that those were the only 2 dogs he had left. Williams was given a sentence of 5 years in prison. Another case was opened and reported in the same article for an investigation of 8 dead greyhounds found under a bridge on Highway 20 in Walton County. On April 3, 2003, a report by Addie Patricia Assay titled "Greyhounds Racing to Their Deaths," published in the Stetson Law Review, shared information about several other incidences of abuse and abandonment that greyhounds endure as part of their careers. Assay referenced a case in November of '91 at a farm in Summerfield, Florida, where 194 greyhounds were found starving and forced to lay and eat in their own waste. Another incident was referenced in January of '96, when a dog was attacked on the track and later died because the owner refused to pay for medical care. Assay also tells of hundreds of greyhounds dying from starvation and dehydration over the past 20 years. If these are all from reports, imagine the number of greyhounds in this industry that are abused and neglected without being reported. In May of 2002, 3,000 greyhound remains were found in Alabama. When a former security guard named Robert Rhodes was interviewed about the discovery, he admitted to charging a fee of $10 to shoot greyhounds after they were done racing. Another trend is donating retired racing greyhounds for science research, where 3,200 cases were proven by 2003. Finally, Assay claims that the rising cost of euthanization has led to an increase of owners shooting their retired racing greyhounds. Unfortunately, the root of the problem in the abuse, neglect, and killing of innocent greyhounds is money. The industry of greyhound racing is fueled by wagering, which is placing bets on the greyhound that you think will win the race. The owner, trainer, and those who bet on the winning greyhound receive a portion of the winnings. According to the Tampa Bay Times, an article by Tony Marrero discussed earlier, the trainer Malcolm McAllister, who allegedly drugged at least 5 of his greyhounds that he had trained with cocaine, reportedly brought in more than $900,000 in the 5,400 victories under his name between 2005 and 2017. The WCTV article that covered the story of Ronald Williams, who served 5 years for animal cruelty after 32 greyhounds under his care were found dead from starvation and dehydration, reported making between $1,000 to $1,500 per week per train. If McAllister's making $900,000 in winnings in 12 years, and Williams is receiving the wages for training between $1,000 and $1,500 per week, then I would say that greyhound racing is a pretty profitable industry. So you have owners and trainers of greyhounds in an industry that is dying who are making less than they once did. But still, a large amount of greyhounds are in need of food and care. What happens? From a financial perspective, greyhound racing is not what it used to be. There just isn't the same interest in placing bets in dogs. Something led to a decline in interest in greyhound racing, which led to a dramatic loss of revenue. According to many sources who oppose greyhound racing, the inhumane treatment of innocent animals is the primary reason the practice should be prohibited. The only way to end the inhumane treatment of greyhounds in Florida used for wagering on dog racing is to prohibit wagering for dog racing across the state. However, according to Tony Glover, instead of looking for ways to help protect the innocent greyhounds, owners, trainers, and representatives have tried to push for rights to allow a certain amount of performance-inducing drugs in the dogs. Another concern of Glover's is the sense that the only ones caught drugging, abusing, and killing greyhounds are charged. Assay claim the reason that the statutes passed against animal cruelty are not protecting greyhounds is the language used in the statutes and how they're interpreted in the court system. If we can eliminate the legality of wagering on dog races altogether, the industry will fade, and the impact on the lives of greyhounds will significantly improve. If there is no prize at the end of the greyhound races, the idea of drugging a dog with performance-enhancing drugs is dissolved. The owners will stop mass breeding greyhounds. The greyhounds that are at training farms will be released to find good homes, since there will be no need for trainers or training techniques that cause greyhounds to be isolated in cages for most of the day. We often see pictures of animal cruelty on social media and it makes us cringe. Scrolling past inhumane pictures of animals who are victims can't help these animals. Sharing these photos can't help these animals. Being part of a decision to eliminate an industry that drives people to treat a certain breed of dogs inhumanely can help solve the problem. If any of you are on the fence about your decision to vote whether yes or no on Amendment 13 on November 6th, I hope that I have at least raised awareness to help you make an educated decision. If you're not a Florida resident but live in one of the 9 other states where wagering on dogs is legal, I hope you will be inspired to start advocating for greyhounds in your home state. The gambling industry for greyhound racing leads to the inhumane treatment of innocent animals. Reports have indicated that greyhounds intended for racing suffer from isolation, dog abuse, training-induced injuries, and death. Money is responsible for the mistreatment of greyhounds on a level of higher stakes for winning in a dying industry where funds are not there to adequately care for each animal. The only solution to the problem associated with inhumane treatment of greyhounds is to vote yes on Amendment 13 to the Florida Constitution prohibiting wagering on live dog races, including greyhound races held in Florida, and banning dog races in Florida in which there are wagering. Thank you. Have a good day.